Hi everyone, and welcome to Faith Brynel Talks Law, the podcast, where we explore careers in law, legal education, and the journeys behind the professionals who are shaping the future of the legal profession. Today's guest is Linda Chadderton. She is the Director of Professional Legal Education at the University of Central Lancashire. Linda is a qualified solicitor with extensive experience in personal injury and civil litigation, and she has built a career that spans both legal practice and academia. She is deeply involved in shaping the development of future legal professionals, bringing together practical legal expertise with a strong and impactful focus on teaching and professional training. So, Linda, how is it going today? And welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And what a lovely introduction. I hardly know myself, but thank you. Just one thing, we've changed our name to the University of Lancashire. So,
well,
yes,
excellent.
There you go. So you learned something new.
We all learn from each other. So, Linda, could you begin by telling me a little bit about your journey, first of all, into law, and what led you to your current role as Director of Professional Legal Education?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Faith. So I did a law degree at what was Trent Poly, but is now Nottingham Trent University. And I graduated, my law degree. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I came back, I'm from the Northwest, I'm from Blackpool. So I came back to Blackpool and I worked for the civil service, which were a big employer in the Northwest at the time. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in the civil service long term, and I wanted to do something with my law degree, but I was asked to take part in helping the benefits agency get the Investors in People Award. So I did that, and I became a communications officer. And through my various links, I then decided, well, you know, I quite like speaking in public, etc. So I decided to then complete my legal education. And I was very lucky because of the work I'd done with the benefits agency. They then invested in me and they paid for me to complete my legal practice course, which I did at what was then the University of Central Lancashire. So I've come absolutely full circle, which is something that I love. And so I completed sponsored through the civil service, so I completed my legal practice course. And this is a story that I tell my students to try and give them a little bit of inspiration. Sometimes it's taking a big gamble, a big chance and throwing yourselves out there. So in those days, we didn't even have email, but we had an enormous directory of everybody that was ever employed by the civil service. And I found the solicitors branch in London. I went right to the top of the directory, found the number of the head of the solicitors branch at the time, picked up the phone, to which my colleagues around the table said, don't do it, you're going to get sacked, because nobody goes in the civil service. I went, no, I'm going to call him, I'm going to ask him for a job. And I picked up the phone, spoke to his secretary, who put me through to him, possibly one of he was, I can't remember his name, but he was a sir somebody. And obviously I have a northern accent. And so I was quite intimidated by speaking to him, but I just thought, I've done it now. And I just said, look, I've got a law degree. The civil service has paid for me to do my academic stage of the training. I want to give something back. Can I work for the solicitors branch? And he just turned around to me and said, I love the fact that you've just called me out of the blue. And yes, you can start Monday. So I was offered a job there and then. For whatever reason, I didn't take it, but then I was offered one in Birmingham. I was anything in Manchester, anything near Blackpool. I was trying to get them to come further up the country. From there, I ended up with a training contract in a high street firm in Blackburn. And then I went to work for a huge insurance company in-house in their litigation department. And then naturally, when they outsourced work, I then thought, well, what do I want to do? I'd always had a hand in helping the more junior members of staff. And I had written training manuals in the civil service. And I just thought teaching is my next progressive step. And I think it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. So I haven't looked back since that. And I love the fact that I've come absolutely full circle. So I'm
Full
teaching
circle.
the future as they taught me in the past.
Excellent, Linda. Thank you very much for that comprehensive and impactful explanation as to your journey and how you came full circle. It's always valuable for students to hear not only about work experience, but about your journey, because and how a journey into law can really stem from different directions, especially into education. What your journey clearly and evidently highlights is how varied the legal profession can be beyond traditional routes, but also to be a successful lawyer, you have to be proactive. And the bedrock of this podcast is pivot and don't panic. And as you said, you took a risk, it played off, and you've got to be proactive because law is competitive. It's one of the most competitive careers that exists. And as an aspiring barrister myself, I've understood that firsthand. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important. From your perspective, then, what are the key skills that aspiring legal professionals need to develop early on?
Yeah. So you need a foundation, you need a rock of legal knowledge, and that's almost a given. And as I say to my students, it is, if you work hard enough, you can get a really good law degree. So that is almost a given. It's everything that you do over and above that. And sometimes students won't have any legal work experience. I had no legal work experience, but I'd been working since the age of 13 because I had 3 paper rounds from the age of 13 and a lucrative babysitting contract as well. But sometimes it's all the other things that you do.
Yeah.
In law, it's about people skills. It's about communication. It's how you come across to people and whether or not you've got a can-do attitude. The things I was tasked with when I first became a trainee solicitor, and that is in, like 25 years ago, and it wasn't the workplace it was today. You were expected. I used to take files home every night. I'd work till midnight. I'd bring them back in. We didn't have access to the internet. The partner would say, "I need to know something about private nuisance for this case." I would end up in the university library all weekend researching things. So it's being able to be resilient, to do what you need to do. And also, I would say, because you're aspiring to be a barrister, which is amazing, obviously you'll be aware that the route to qualification as a solicitor has changed. And now students are doing the SQE exams. They are really, really hard. And I think it's now only that students are realising that they may not pass these exams on the first attempt. Whereas the legal practice course, which you would do at the institution, you did your mock exams. They were open book exams. They were different.
Yeah.
Occasionally, if you worked hard enough, you would pass those. With the SQE, you have 360 multiple choice questions. It's such a vast bank of knowledge that you need. So I think students are realising that you're very lucky if you pass them the first time. So it's that resilience factor. We often see things on LinkedIn all the time, quite rightly so, people shouting about the success, and it's brilliant. But beneath that success, for some, the route to success is through failure. And I think we kind of need to normalise that. In my job at the time, when I applied for my training contract, me and my friend, she was in London applying for training contracts, she hand wrote 178 letters and printed out CVs. She got about 3 interviews. I went for legal secretarial jobs. I couldn't type. I soon got found out in interviews when they'd asked me to audio type, and I had no idea how to.
Yeah.
Putting yourself out there and just keep going until, you get a foot in the door. And everything we do at the University of Lancashire even, is all about supporting students and creating these situations, vacation schemes, legal mentoring, judges marshalling. We try and give them that extra unique point that they need to compete.
Excellent, Linda. That's really interesting, especially when you spoke about the need for resilience and about showcasing that resilience. Because one of my favorite quotes is a quote that my father introduced me to from Booker T. Washington, one of America's first Black educators, and he says, "Success isn't necessarily about success. It's the journey you've been on to get to success. It's the obstacles you've had to face. It's about that transparency." And that's why this podcast exists, to really give a clear and transparent insight into my journey, because it is Faith Brynel Talks Law, but also other professionals who can shed some light into their journey and some of the challenges they've faced, some of the setbacks. As you said, failure is unfortunately something that you might face, but it doesn't mean you won't get there. But you've got to push beyond the fray, and you've got to really be resilient. As Linda said, stepping out of your comfort zone and applying for these roles, even if you've got no idea what you're doing, just get out there, because when your name's out there, that's what happens. And you then start to become more confident. You will have different experiences with different people, but being able to be confident, being able to understand what you offer, first of all, what you bring to the table, and simultaneously building your people skills, building those soft skills of communication, that adaptability and that teamwork is a necessary aspect of a lawyer. So really great to delve into that and really give some transparent and candid advice for these aspiring lawyers. But for those considering the bar or becoming solicitors, what should they be doing? What is the top 3 things they should be doing now to prepare effectively for that journey?
Okay, so if we say that the legal foundation, the knowledge of that is a given, and that they have the requisite qualifications, one of the most important things is probably to improve your communication skills, to do as much public speaking as you possibly can. Whether that you give a speech at a wedding, or whether you join a debating society, or take part in mooting competitions. I think it's important because a lot of my students, and I feel like there's a real lack of confidence in some of my students, which amazes me, because the backgrounds they are from can be really challenging, and they actually emit confidence, but they don't feel it within themselves. We do, just to go slightly off plan, we do a vacation scheme at the University of Lancashire. And what happens is we get students, law students from all years, and we normally have about 40 of them. We invite employers and large organisations in. They come in on the Monday and they set the students a task of presenting to them on, it may be a legal issue, or it may be an issue in respect of their practice. How can they attract more lawyers, etc. And the students, when they are faced with it, they then have to, on the Friday, they have to present to the employers, and the winning team gets work experience with the firm or the institution. It's been really, really successful, but I can guarantee on the Monday there are 40 students that are inwardly shaking at the thought of having to present to employers on the Friday. By the Friday morning, because of all the work that we do with them, they are revved up and ready to go. And that journey just in 5 days is such an amazing thing to see. How do you get confidence? You've just got to put yourself out there. Things that I would advise to is to get as much experience as possible. If you can get experiences in a law firm, if you can get a mini pupillage, that's brilliant. But lots of people don't have the network, they don't have the links to do that. But a lot of students, because of the situation, they do have to work. And I think any experience, any kind of like customer facing role, you've got brilliant experience in respect of those communication skills. Stay curious, stay ahead of the game. What's going on in law? What's going on, in criminal? If you're interested in criminal law, make sure that you are aware of criminal justice system and the issues that are being raised, for example, with jury trials. So it's staying curious, keeping abreast of all the news in respect of the legal profession, with a view to also looking to the future. AI is prevalent at the moment, so it's ensuring that you understand the technicality and all the emerging tech that's coming out, and how is it going to change the profession. Communication, confidence, and stay aware.
Excellent. Communication, confidence, and stay aware. And Linda's so organised, she jumped ahead to the next questions. I myself, been on a journey to confidence. If you'd met me in year 7, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. I wouldn't even consider being a barrister. So it's not an event, it's a journey, but your journey can begin now. And so you have to equip yourself, step out of your comfort zone. As Linda said, tabernacling on a couple of things you spoke about there, a vacation scheme done at the University of Lancashire, and really other universities have their own services. So if you're at other universities across the UK or internationally, because I know that we've got people here who are not in the UK, so let me include you in my surmising, but contact the university and the academic institution where you are, because their whole aim and ethos is to make sure you feel supported and make sure you can naturally transition onto the next step of your journey. And that is the bedrock of every institution. So we've spoken about AI and AI, but is there any other trends that you see, Linda, that you believe can shape the future of legal education?
Well, legal education is an ever-changing beast because we have to adhere to our professional body standards. And when the SRA or the Bar Standards Board, when they change the entry to a profession, we have to sit up and take notice and change our courses accordingly. 5 years ago, the likes of Richard Susskind wrote about AI and emerging tech probably 10 years ago. And he did say if only 50% of what he predicted came true, then it would be a very different profession. We're seeing that because even in the last 5 years from COVID, where the courts weren't using any type of digital software that I was aware of, and all of a sudden within 24 hours we're all on Skype. I mean, that was amazing. So we can see how things can move really, really quickly. AI just prevails everywhere, from case management systems to the prediction of case outcomes. We've seen lawyers use it poorly, where they've used cases that don't exist because the AI hallucinates. Yeah, but we need to harness it because I don't think it's going anywhere. You always need to keep aware of what is going on. I would say in respect of legal education, because the profession, certainly for solicitors, has been opened up, training, you can go to any different training provider now to take these SQE ready courses. You no longer need a law degree, although my view would be that you always need a law degree because you always need those foundations of legal knowledge. But I can understand that the SRA are trying to widen access to the profession. But I would say create your own opportunities, and however that sits with you, whatever that means to you, try and stay ahead and create these own opportunities for you. When I first went to the university, what I noticed was the students, because I come straight out of practice, I've been a solicitor for 20 years, students would say to me, how do I get some legal work experience? I just can't do it. I don't know anybody in the law. So that's why we've created lots of initiatives at the university to try and help them with that. But there's nothing stopping students from creating their own opportunities, setting up debating societies, mentoring schemes. We've had some really, really successful students that have actually approached judges on LinkedIn to say, can I marshal you? Yeah. So it is, if the opportunity isn't there, don't sit on your laurels, actually create something for yourself. And I mean, it's amazing what you've done, Faith, as well. You've created a podcast. So, that you're living proof that it works.
It's really important to create your own opportunities. As I said, from my personal experience, when I was a politics student, I wasn't able to join certain legal societies. They were reserved for law students. So I thought, okay, what can I do? So I joined debating clubs. I joined the KCL United Nations Association. So I also created a podcast. So you have to step out your comfort zone. You've got to use what LinkedIn is the biggest networking platform in the world. You've got to utilize that for your benefit. A lot of the guest speakers I'll continue to have on the podcast are judges, barristers, solicitors, legal professionals. Now, I wouldn't have met any of them unless I'd taken a leap of faith, written to them. Yes, some people have said no. That's okay. Rejection's natural, but you've got to keep moving regardless of your challenges. So don't let any setback stop you from achieving your destination. You've got to push and continue to push and push because the end result is completely worth it. And, utilizing those experiences at the universities, as Linda said, creating societies, creating mentorship schemes, creating a podcast. If anyone's interested in creating a podcast, you've come to the right place, because I am launching a podcast how-to series. But just to finish off this really interesting interview, what is the one piece of advice, Linda, that you wish you'd received at the start of your own legal career?
Gosh, that's really interesting. Don't panic. Keep on keeping on. I'm a bit of a runner, so I like to do a bit of running. And whenever I'm in any type of situation where I'm facing personal challenges or challenges at work, just run to the next lamppost. Yeah. So you've just got to keep on keeping on. And what will happen is, over time, you'll take stock, you'll look back and you'll realise how far you've come. You're all on your own individual journeys, so just keep on, and you'll triumph in the end, and you'll be amazed with what you are able to achieve. But it is resilience. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. That's the perfect way to end today's episode, because as I mentioned earlier, the whole mantra of this podcast is pivot and don't panic. So Linda's really tapped into that there. It's really important to pivot, and in the face of challenges, it can be daunting, especially if you're facing imposter syndrome or anxiety, or if you're the first in your family to go to university. There are a lot of challenges and barriers, but just push beyond the barriers and don't let it be your limiting factor. Let it be your strength. And I think that's what's really important. So, such valuable advice, really. everybody. And Linda, thank you for joining me today on the Faith Brynel Talks Law podcast. It's been an insightful conversation. It's been a conversation where I'm sure the listeners can take away a lot of tips, really, that they can action around developing those key skills, harnessing what they've got, and preparing effectively for the legal profession. A lot of students, even across the world, even if you're not going to the bar or to become a solicitor in England and Wales, you can use that advice because it's still adaptable to wherever you are. So thank you, everybody, as well, for coming back and to listening to Faith Brynel Talks Law. A shout out to all of the 53 countries who continue to tune in. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, first of all, on your podcast platform of choice. Share it with somebody who could benefit. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Faith Brynel Talks Law. Remember, pivot and don't panic. See you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.